you people, hey all you people, hey all you people, won't you listen to me? Because now it's time to sit down and have a serious discussion about mental health, suicide, and grieving. If you see me constantly looking down, it's because I have a ton of information about what you need to look out for. So, let's get started. The first thing I would like to talk about is statistics on suicide, mental health, and depression, but mostly suicide. Suicide takes the lives of 30,000 Americans every year, twice as many deaths to suicide than HIV and AIDS. Every 40 seconds, someone passes by suicide, and between the ages of 15 to 24, suicide is the third leading cause of death, according to save.org. Guys, we need to put a stop to this. This is not okay. I know 4 people who have done it within the last 3 years, okay? This is ridiculous, and I'm here to put a stop to it. So, mental illness affects the brain because it is actually on and in your brain. If you were to take a brain scan with depression or without depression, you would see that depression is the black color because some in the old cameras they didn't have the different colors. So depression and other mental health illnesses affect the brain by not making it smaller, but it clouds the brain and affects judgment, thinking, actions, and any other thing you can think of that the brain does. This is a disease and an illness just like cancer or any other thing that with a little bit of help you can improve. It'll never go away, but it can be improved. To get a better understanding of what depression is like, I'm going to give you an example. I felt like it runs in our family. We have depression, anxiety, and a few other things in our family that I don't remember, on both sides actually. And I actually recently got diagnosed with bipolar disorder, which is something that since I think my freshman year of high school, my friends said that I have bipolar disorder, and since my 6th grade year, I had friends who said, you have depression. And I didn't want to go to my family with this because I already have a long medical history, and I always get so nervous, but I had a really fantastic school psychologist in, I think, 7th grade who put me in a girls group and called my mom and said, this is what Haley talks about. She took a depression screening test and scored very high for both depression and anxiety. I think she should get help outside. I went home and I told my mom, no, I'm not getting help. I'm not going to a hospital. So we've known since pretty much I was a kid that I had depression. And it's just worsened because I wouldn't accept help. I thought I was too strong for that. I just want to handle it the way my dad does by putting it into art or something, whereas my dad puts it into karate. But my dad's been alive for way longer than I have. So I really just didn't know how to handle it, and it just progressively got worse and worse and worse, which is why it's now manic depression. With that being said, no, I'm not looking for sympathy. You can give it to me, I don't care. Thank you. But I want you guys to know that it is a serious issue. There are days I cannot get out of bed. I'm literally dragged out of bed by my parents. So, the way that I used to handle it was by listening to music, which is a very therapeutic and very, very, very good way of handling it. I also have done some really stupid things such as smoking, drinking, cutting myself, burning myself, and other unnecessary things that I will actually address later in the video. But those are not healthy ways, and that is when you need to seek help. When I had friends coming to me and telling me, Haley, you need to get help, I would not listen to them. So I understand if you don't want to listen. I know it is so embarrassing, or however you feel about it, it's nerve-wracking, it's hard because you don't know how to handle it, you don't know how to put it into words, okay? It's understandable. But now is a time, in 2013, we need to trump this. It is time to get help. It is okay to accept it. It is okay. Now, if you are the type of person who has family members and friends who don't believe you, which, by the way, I actually did. I had a lot of people in my extended family who I'm very, very close to, and I love them very dearly, but they didn't know how to handle the fact that someone who is so loving and too sweet to have these stupid illnesses could be depressed or have depression. They don't understand it. So I couldn't really go to them with that kind of thing. They would call my mom and tell her things I was saying or posting on Facebook until my mom got a Facebook. And it was scary. I'm telling you, I was not ready for that kind of help. I was not in a place where I was ready to accept it. So that's another thing you need to know. If you're not in the mood to accept it, you're not going to get better. You're not. And now is the time, while you're watching this video or whenever you're ready, it is okay to tell yourself, I'm going to get better. Life will be okay. It's okay to ask for help and reach out. It's okay to accept help if people ask you. So, how you can be a friend and help is just by suggesting different places they can go to, giving the different websites I have in the description below, where there's different hotlines you can call, there's different websites you can go on, there's many groups on Facebook even that will help you. There are so many people who will reach out and help you because they're so understanding and non-judgmental. And that is a mindset we need to have today. With everything that has happened in the world and everything that has progressed, we need to understand, we need to educate ourselves on what mental illness is. I actually have a site up right now that I'm going to read from so you understand what it's like. They said basically what I just said, which is you can be sad and blue. They use the example of seeing a madman in a movie where the underlying causes of mental illness, but in a movie you never see that being addressed. Or if you do, they're saying, oh, they have depression and they're psycho. If you have depression or bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, any sort of illness that you can get help for, you're not crazy, you're not stupid. Let us together trump this stupid stereotype that people with depression are psycho. Those are the terms that were used many years before they even understood how to help people. Psychology and science have come a long way in providing for people who have our illnesses, being crazy, whatever. And then a mental illness can be defined as a health condition that changes a person's thinking, feelings, or behavior, or all three, and that causes a person distress and difficulty in functioning. Let me tell you, myself, that is very true. Some days I want to call off work. I finally have a mood stabilizer to make me feel better. I'm not 100% yet, but I finally feel better. I have a therapist and everything. So you don't need to worry about me. What you do need to worry about is yourself. Or if you have a friend because you're not feeling this way yourself, you need to worry about that friend, but only so much. Do not become the person who becomes the host for a leech. You are a person too. If you're feeling distressed and sad and it causes you to have depression, not just be depressed, to have depression because you have had so many people come and feed off of you, you're just worsening this epidemic that we can fix. I'm going to talk about suicide. When it comes to suicide, I also have my own personal experience with this within myself and within other people. As I mentioned earlier, I did try to cut myself and everything else. I'm going to be honest, 3 times in my life I have attempted and come very close to dying by suicide. It took after the third time to finally realize why I was so angry and why I was so hurt inside and why I could not see past that darkness. I couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak, because I just wanted it all to end. I was tired of people dying on me. Now, there's a lot of things that went into this. The first time, I was dating this guy, and he wasn't the best person for me. And I will not go into details of that relationship because that is a personal thing. But he attempted first, and all of his friends, who I was friends with as well, I grew up with them, and they introduced me to him actually, told me, "You're such a B word. You don't deserve to live. This is your fault. He's in the hospital." He told me everything you say to him, which, by the way, I was only supportive of him. And I'm not just saying that because it's me. I'm saying that because it's true. I was for 3 years with that kid. It was back and forth. So he attempted, and because everyone was telling me it was my fault, I attempted. The second time, a ton of things were going on, and I was just, everyone, I mean, from each group of my friends, my family, everyone, was always criticizing me, and it was just a very, very low point in my life. I got my first warning at the first job I had, so I thought I couldn't even do that. My grades were starting to slip, and I didn't have cheer anymore to fall back on, and I wasn't really going to karate that much because I started getting really busy with work, and I wanted it to be done. I was tired of it. So my friend's mom got a new car, and I was practicing driving, which is the age that I should have gotten my driver's license on. And I tried to drive into an elementary school, and my friends who were in the car, my poor, poor friends, literally grabbed my seat and said, "Haley, what are you doing?" And I stopped. 2 weeks later, one of my best friends, oh, by the way, this same friend heard about this and bitched me out in front of a huge group of people, so I was in a lot of trouble. A lot of trouble. She was very hurt. She said, "After I already lost someone, how could you do this to me?" Blah, 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 blah. And then 2 weeks later, she was gone, did it to herself. And then after that, it was a year and a month after that death, and right before my birthday, actually. And this was more trouble with another ex, and he was even worse than the last one I mentioned. And he basically told me I'm worthless and did something that's unforgivable for me. And I cut myself very, very deep. I should have gone to the hospital, but my parents came in on me because I was in a fight with them, and they tried calming down the fight, but how they calm down isn't very calming. No offense, Mom and Dad. But, or how they used to. They've gotten a lot better, sorry. But how they calmed down was by just bringing up the fight again because they wanted to have the last word. And I quickly threw over my jacket because I didn't want them to see what I just did. And I was like, "I have to go to the bathroom. I have to go to the bathroom. I have to go to the bathroom. No, Mom, I have to go to the bathroom." While there's blood running down my arm. And finally, my mom just said all these really hurtful things. So I was like, "You know what? Fine." And I threw over my jacket, and there was literally just, it was even darker than I had seen. It was all over my bed, all over my clothes. I have this disgusting, embarrassing gash on my arm now. And I should have gotten stitches, but my mom didn't want me going to the hospital because she didn't think it was for that. Sorry, Mom. But let me say this. After that night, when I saw the way my dad was crying and how he was already basically planning his funeral in his head when he was just I mean, I don't see my dad cry. I've seen him cry 3 times in my life. And to know that I was the reason for that, like, really actually freaking sucks. So, I realized how I felt about Quincy, and I had an epiphany that my life is important, and I'm gonna stay, and I'm gonna do this for you guys. So please, seriously, if your thoughts ever get that bad, if your actions ever get that bad, seriously seek help, because it's not worth it. My life is 10 times better now. But anyways, with that being said, we're going to talk about grieving. To begin, I'm going to talk about the 7 stages of grief. And by the way, grieving is different for everyone, so there is no specific order. There's shock and denial, pain and guilt, anger and bargaining, depression, reflection and loneliness, the upward turn, reconstruction and working through it, and acceptance and hope. If you would like me to make another video and go farther into depth with those specific 7 stages of grief, then I will gladly do so. There's also 40 things that I have pulled up that I think y'all need to know about grieving. There's 40 facts. I pulled this off of a Life Cheats account on Twitter, which is, by the way, it is linked to a person who's a psychologist, so I find this very accurate and very helpful. I'm going to read off of it. Hopefully I can do it in a little bit of a cheerful manner, so let's get started. Just so you guys know, no matter how prepared you think you are for death, you can never, ever be fully prepared for when you lose someone to death. You can plan for it, such as if a person is in a hospital, has cancer or anything, you can plan for it, but when they pass, you're still not going to be able to comply with all their wishes and their plans, or your wishes and plans. So do not feel guilty for that. This is quoted. It says, "Stop avoiding and be present," end quote. Again, it's quoted, "Dying is not like you see on TV or in the movies. It is not peaceful or prepared. You may not have a spiritual, meaningful moment. It's too real." Some people don't believe in spiritual, meaningful moments, and that is okay. What you believe in is what you believe in, and no one can take that away from you. But I will tell you this, I know plenty of people who say that they had dreams and I said, like, I'm not even kidding. I have felt like I have seen the spirit of Quincy and some other people that I've lost to death, not just suicide, but death in general. I've literally, and one could argue that I'm crazy, but because I'm somewhat religious, I do believe that it was their angel coming down and telling me that they're okay. That was my way to know that I am gonna be okay, and it's okay to move on and not feel guilty with their death. A hospital bed is not always a bad death, and a home or death hospice death is not always a good death. Quote, "There will be pressure from others to move on, even minutes or hours after a death, and this can lead to regrets," end quote. Don't listen to that. Do not ever listen to someone telling you to get over it. Ever. That is your grieving. You can take years. And by the way, it is said that grieving on average lasts up to 2 years, but I've also heard up to 10 years. But after 2 years, psychologists say that it becomes clinical depression. So That is a very important thing for y'all to know. Quote, death is not an emergency. There was always a time to step back and take a moment to say goodbye. Unquote. You will plan the funeral if you ever had to plan a funeral, which God knows I really hope none of you ever have to. You will plan the funeral in a haze. If you aren't happy with the funeral you had, have another memorial service later. And don't ever be afraid to have another memorial service. Maybe it's not with them in the room, but that is okay. You don't have to have them in the room. Their picture and everything, and everyone who loves that person being there is enough. Maybe for some people, for you to continue grieving and to move forward with your life. Death and grief make people uncomfortable, so be prepared for awkward encounters. Very true. When people offer support, take them up on it. People will bring you food because they don't know what else to do. Do not feel bad about throwing it away. People will say stupid, hurtful things without even realizing it. That's so true. People will tell you things that aren't true about your grief. Yeah, so if you believe that this is one of those things, then I'll take that with a grain of salt. People will tell you things, I already read that. Death brings out the best and worst in families, so be prepared. There is no such thing as closure, and that is something that I need to accept. There is no timeline for grieving. You cannot rush it. You will grieve in some form forever. Quote, there will always be regrets. No matter how much time you had, you'll always want more. End quote. Guilt is a normal part of grief, and anger is a normal part of grief. Quote, the pain of a loss is a reflection of love, but you can never regret loving someone or something as hard as you can. End quote. Grief can make you question your faith. And grief doesn't come in 5 neat stages. It is messy and confusing. Grief makes you feel like you're going crazy. It can make you question your life, your purpose, and your goals, and that isn't always a bad thing. We all grieve differently, which can create strain and confusion between family members and friends. However badly you think it's going to hurt, it's going to be a million times worse. You may find comfort in very unexpected places. You should go somewhere to debrief after caregiving. And I think that means if you're helping someone grieve and move forward with their life, you should help yourself too. Don't think that you just have to help everyone. The last 24 hours of their lives, or the last 24 hours of when you saw them, will replay in your mind. Trying to protect children from death and emotions of grief is not helpful. Be honest. It's sometimes necessary to seek out new ways to grieve on your own. Find new guidance. If the people who are supposed to be supportive simply haven't learned how to, I need to learn that as well. You grieve your past, present, and future with that person. Big life events, as in milestones, will forever be bittersweet. Grief triggers are everywhere. You will see things that remind you of your loved one all over the place, and it may lead to sudden outbursts of emotions, whether positive or negative. You lose yourself, your identity, meaning, purpose, values, your trust. Holidays and anniversaries and birthdays will be hard forever. People will tell you what you should and shouldn't feel and how you should and shouldn't grieve. Ignore them. The grief process is about not only mourning the loss, but getting to know yourself as a different person. There is no normal when it comes to grieving. So I hope those 40 things helped you. If there's anything else you want to see, go ahead and give it a comment below, and I will certainly take a look. Also, I want you guys to share this with everyone. Share, share, share. I'm putting it on Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, and obviously YouTube. But I need people to see these things. I need everyone to know that it is okay to get help. I need everyone to know that these things are unfortunately a normal part of life, and maybe one video can be shared and we can put a stop to this tragic epidemic. So, now, there are sources below. There are also different websites that I go on when I'm having a manic episode and I need to debrief for a little bit. There's also some songs I listen to, the titles and the artists of them. And with that being said, I hope you guys have a magical day. I will see you later.